Hey, it's Sarah here to tell you about the Infinity Pro by Conair with the Knot Doctor all-in-one dryer brush. I just took this traveling with me and it is amazing in that it is a 3-in-1 tool. I didn't have to pack extra equipment with me just for my hair on this trip. It has a hair dryer. It is a volumizer. It is a detangler. It can do all of these things in one step. The large oval brush creates glam, waves, the bristles painlessly remove knots as you dry and style. It uses ionic technology to create a frizz-free look effortlessly. Speaking of that frizz-free look, there are 3 heat settings plus a cool setting that will lock in your look for effortless-looking hairstyles. It's got a bonus volumizing attachment included that gives you added lift at the roots. And the removable attachments make storage at home or away super easy. Like I said, I just traveled with it and it was so easy and so convenient. If you would like your very own Infinity Pro by Conair with the Knot Doctor all-in-one dryer brush, simply go to conair.com and search dryer brush. Again, that is Conair, CONAIR.com, and search dryer brush.
Golden State Media Concepts bring you Book Review Podcast, a haven for bookworms of all ages and the widest genres, from mystery to memoirs, romance to comedy, fantasy to sci-fi. If you love to read, this is a podcast for you. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Book Review Podcast.
Hello and welcome to the GSMC Book Review Podcast, brought to you by the GSMC Podcast Network. I am your host, Sarah. I am coming to you once again from Giant Bear Studios in the spare room in my parents' house in Montana. So welcome back to this crazy little makeshift studio I have going on. I am so excited about today's episode because I got the opportunity for my 10-year-old niece to ask some of the questions, and she was really excited, and she was really excited and a little nervous, and she was kind of bouncing around in her chair, and so she asked some of the questions, and then at one point toward the end, as we were chatting a little more, she just kind of wandered away. I don't know if she went and got a snack or whatever, but anyway, she asked all the questions that she was supposed to ask, and she really liked the book, and she loved being able to be a part of this. So again, her name, she's my 10-year-old niece. I've mentioned her probably a million times. Her name is Risa. She'll be 11 the end of August, and it was so much fun. I was laughing when we started reading the book. The book, by the way, is Finding My Yip by Christine Isley-Farmer, and I was reading it to not only my 10-year-old niece, but also my 15-year-old niece was hanging out with us and listening, and my sister was doing something in the same room that we were in. And so we opened the book, and the first line of the book is something like, "Mommy had just finished giving us our tongue baths." And all 4 of us went, "Wait, what?" We had not realized that the book was told from the point of view of the dog, which it is. It is told from the point of view of the puppy in the story. So that made Risa even happier because in a former life, she was a dog. I'm telling you, she loves dogs so very much. She has approximately 8 million stuffed dogs in her possession, in her collection, and she loves them, and she pretends to be a dog, and so this was the perfect book for her to, for us to read together and for her to join me on this interview. Let me tell you what the book is about. Obviously, there's a dog in it. Again, it's called Finding My Yip. It's the first book in a series of books that will be called Boomer's Tales. Boomer, that's the dog, is a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel who is unable to yip. Boomer lives with Nana Weathers, a musician who possesses a magic ring. Boomer quickly bonds with Nana's 9-year-old granddaughter, Chloe, who has a stutter. Her big wish is to sing like Nana. Chloe and Boomer make new friends at dog obedience school and grow their confidence. By learning up by teaming up in the music room and gaining a little help from their friends, will Chloe and Boomer find their voices. So there's a little bit of magic. There is a wonderful relationship between a 9-year-old girl and her dog. Again, that was something else that was relatable for Risa, who's a little bit older than Chloe, but understands. And you'll hear Risa has some trouble with her R's, so she's working on that. So she could definitely understand some of the issues that Chloe and Boomer go through. In fact, in the car the other day, she was reading Squirrel Girl, and she had told my mom, her Nana, again, another thing in common that she has with Chloe. She had told Nana that the other day that Squirrel Girl was a really good book for her to read and to practice reading out loud because she needs to work on her R's. So she is working on those R's. And while I know that that little bit of a speech, it's not really a speech impediment, but children often have issues with certain letters. I know that she needs to work on those R's, but part of me will be a little sad when the R's, the cute way she speaks now goes away. But I know that, she has to grow up. So at any rate, let's go ahead and turn to the interview with Christine so she can tell you more about the writing of the book, her inspiration for Boomer and Chloe, how many books she wants to see in this series, etc. Again, the book is called Finding My Yip. The author is Christine Isley-Farmer.
Hi, Christine. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Sarah. It's nice to be with you today.
We are excited to have you here. As I mentioned before, I am here with my 10-year-old niece, Risa, and she's going to be asking some of the questions. We're going to be talking about your book, Finding My Yip. But before we get to the book, can you share a little bit about yourself so my listeners can get to know you?
Yes, I'd be happy to do that. I am a former professional classical singer and now a retired university professor, where I coordinated the voice area and taught voice-related courses. And my writing career began before now because I was writing academic articles for publications. But creativity writing started as a childhood. After my retirement, I decided that I wanted to write the series of books. So that's a little bit about myself and my background. So that leads into talking about finding my yip. I found my lip in finding my yip too.
Absolutely. And we could probably do a whole podcast just on your professional singing career, because it sounds like you've had some, I was reading the biography on the book, and it sounds like you've had some pretty cool experiences.
I have. I was lucky enough to live in Europe for a while, and I sang in a house there for 6 years, and traveled and sang in England and then Ireland, and I have also sung with regional opera companies here in the United States, and that's before I started my academic career as a teacher.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, can you share the premise of Finding My Yip?
Okay. I think that Finding My Yip is a book about teamwork, trust, and friendship between humans and animals with animals. Mm-hmm. And specifically in Finding My Yip, the animals are dogs.
Right. Yes. And what, this is for younger readers, what age group would you say is the best for this book?
Well, Amazon has it for ages 7 to 12, but the protagonist in the book is 9-year-old Chloe. So usually most readers like to read up. Right. So I think it's all right for a 12-year-old also, but it's probably, if you're reading to your child, I think you could read, a 5 or 6-year-old would appreciate it too, as long as you explained what words mean. And there's a glossary in the back of the book anyway that helps out with that for children who are reading or learning to read. But there are tricky words that they need to know the meanings of. So, but I guess Amazon runs it 7 to 12.
Right, but most parents or caregivers are going to know the what their children are capable of reading and interested in reading. So it probably depends on each reader.
Exactly. And Risa is 10, right?
She's 10, yep.
And so this was fairly easy read for her, wasn't it?
Yep. Yeah. In fact, I was reading aloud to her and her sister, and she would sometimes correct me when I missed a word. So she was reading right along with me.
That's good. Okay. So, Risa, did you understand most of the words and the vocabulary?
Yep. Were there any words you didn't understand? Do you remember?
No.
No.
Really. And if I did, I asked Mommy about it.
Yeah. There you go. If she did, she asked her mom about it. So.
Okay, that's good.
All right, Risa, you have the next question. Do you want to ask it?
What was your inspiration for the story?
What was the inspiration for my story? Well, I had a lot of inspirations for the story. I would say that my inspiration is from my own background of being a child who loved to sing and dance and act. I used to play in my yard and make up songs and even get together with neighborhood children, and we would put on shows. We would throw, of all things, like a bedspread over top of a picnic table, and we would dress underneath that picnic table and put on our ballet costumes and our tap costumes, and we'd invite our parents and the neighborhood community to come and watch us all perform. So the inspiration of this was to have, I know children enjoy the arts, and I wanted to have a child who, like I, loved singing. However, she has a problem, and that problem is that she has a stutter, as you read. So her greatest wish is to be able to sing like her grandmother. Yeah, because her grandmother is a music teacher. And the inspiration for me came from my childhood, actually. I think a lot of things that you write for children can come from your own childhood or your own background.
Absolutely.
And the other thing that was an inspiration, too, was I remember growing up, I had dogs and I had cats. And I can remember I would talk to my dogs and my cats, and I would tell them things that I was not always willing to share with my parents. So that relationship between animals and children, I think, is important.
Risa, you talk to your dog, right? Yep.
She also has a blue butt right now.
She also has a blue butt right now. Risa would like everyone to know she's been drawing in sidewalk chalk on the front porch, and the dog keeps rolling in it. So the white Shih Tzu is now blue.
A blue dog. I think you're using blue.
Yeah.
What's your dog's name, Risa?
Lola.
Rosa? Lola.
Yeah. Lola. Okay. Well, you might have to change that name to Blue.
You might have to. or she could be Lola Blue.
Yep, Lola Blue. Good. Lola, yes.
So, Christine, can you talk a little bit more about Chloe, who is the human character, and Boomer, who is the puppy? What about them and their relationship you think will resonate with your readers?
Well, I think that, what I just said about that intimacy between dogs, animals, and humans. And whether you're adult, I'm an adult, and I have a Cavalier King Charles Spaniel like the one in the book. I talk to him all the time. I think the relationship between humans and animals is very important. And no matter what the animal is, I think at any age we can find some kind, whether it's a horse or a goat or a cat, birds. There's something about that interaction between humans and animals to me that's very important. So I think that reading this book, you can learn that. But also Chloe is in a difficult situation because this is not explained in the book, but this is part of my backstory, which is, I develop my characters and a backstory before I start writing. So Chloe's backstory is that her parents were killed in a car wreck.
Yeah.
And she had a stutter before that, but the fact that she has to move to live with her grandmother in a new community, going to a new school, making new friends, has increased the problem that she has with her stutter. And also, it has affected her confidence.
Mm-hmm.
So meeting this dog, this puppy, who is in the home of her grandmother, who is taking care of the mama dog and the 3 puppies while the owner is away on a trip, she notices that Chloe writes poetry, and she notices that her after she goes upstairs to get her poetry book and to get her poetry book, she notices that Nana is in the kitchen singing. And she notices that the other puppies start to sort of yip along with Nana's singing. And Boomer tries to do so, but he can't.
Mm-hmm.
He's a yipless pup.
Yeah.
And she whispers in his ear, you remember reading this, I wish I could sing like Nana.
Yep.
So immediately we have a bond. We have empathy between 2 beings.
Yes.
And I think that's important to learn, to know a little bit about Chloe and her problem with stuttering and what her main desire is. And you learn that in the first chapter. I want to sing like my Nana.
Yeah.
But the problem is she can't. She doesn't have the confidence. It's not that she doesn't have the ability. She doesn't have the confidence. So that's where the bond is. That's where the bond between the 2 comes.
Time to take our first break of the podcast. When we come back, we'll be talking a little bit about a coincidental YouTube video that Risa and I watched that reminded us both of the dog in this story. So stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Book Review Podcast, and I will be right back. Hey, it's Sarah here to tell you about the Infinity Pro by Conair with the Knot Doctor all-in-one dryer brush. I just took this traveling with me, and it is amazing in that it is a 3-in-1 tool. I didn't have to pack extra equipment with me just for my hair on this trip. It has a hair dryer. It is a volumizer. It is a detangler. It can do all of these things in one step. The large oval brush creates glam, waves, the bristles painlessly remove knots as you dry and style. It uses ionic technology to create a frizz-free look effortlessly. Speaking of that frizz-free look, there are 3 heat settings plus a cool setting that will lock in your look for effortless-looking hairstyles. It's got a bonus volumizing attachment included that gives you added lift at the roots. And the removable attachments make storage at home or away super easy. Like I said, I just traveled with it and it was so easy and so convenient. If you would like your very own Infinity Pro by Conair with the Knot Doctor all-in-one dryer brush, simply go to conair.com and search dryer brush. Again, that is Conair, CONAIR.com, and search dryer brush.
Do you want to be healthier, yet you just don't know what to do? All these shows telling you this and that, but nothing seems to work. Well, listen close. Golden State Media Concepts has got something great for you. The Health and Wellness Podcast dedicated to workout trends, healthy eating habits, diet, and everything about healthy living. Join us in our banters as we help you not just live life to the fullest, but live it to the healthiest.
Welcome back to the GSMC Book Review Podcast. Risa and I are speaking with author Christine Isley-Farmer about her wonderful children's book, Finding My Yip. Let's go ahead and return now to the interview with Christine.
Sure. Risa, do you remember last night what was it that we heard that story about the dog who couldn't, as a puppy, and then later on, do you remember that? We encountered a similar story after we read your book, and now I can't remember where it was that we, maybe TikTok, I don't know, but the dog.
Oh. No, it was TikTok. It was that Chihuahua.
Oh, it was a scene from America's Got Talent, and the Chihuahua came on and sang with her, and he didn't bark as a puppy, but then when she started singing with him, he started barking. It was almost the same story as yours.
Yeah.
It was great.
Yeah, except there was no magic in the TikTok one, is there?
Right. No magic. Do you want to talk a little bit about the magic?
Well, the magic is that Nana Weathers has a magic ring.
Yes.
And we all know that dogs cannot sing words, and she's not able to teach him to sing words. But her magic ring allows her to teach him how to match pitch.
Yes.
Okay, and that's how that gets started. And, of course, she does that as a way of bonding the two together, because bonding Chloe with Boomer even more, because he has the confidence to get up and bark, sing in front of Robbie and Hoppy, their friends. And so when she sees that he's willing to do that, and he also is not confident, so as you read in the book, he's not confident at his high notes.
Right.
And he cracks.
Yep.
But he's willing to take a chance and a risk, and Chloe learns from that.
Yes.
It's a big lesson for her. So, yeah. And, I mean, they both, I think it's such a nice story that the characters parallel one another as far as their confidence in what they're doing and taking a risk. And as you and I know as adults, we have to take risk in life. Sometimes I don't mean dangerous risk, but we have to take risk in life to grow.
Right. We have to leave our comfort zones.
Exactly.
Yes. All right, Risa, do you want to ask this next question?
Sure. What types of research did you do for the book?
Oh, okay. Well, I was really interested, since I was writing about stuttering, to learn a little bit more about stuttering. And, I learned there are a lot of famous actors and singers who stuttered as children, and they make still study today. I don't know if Risa might not know some of these actors and actresses, but Marilyn Monroe stuttered. James Earl Jones. Of course, our president, Joe Biden, is a stutterer.
Yep.
And Carly Simon, I don't know if you remember her or not as a singer, and Mel Tilton. There are a number of famous people who stutter, and they have overcome that as singers and actors. Now, I was especially interested in what is it about singing that makes it possible for stutterers to sing, and that's because of the left brain, right brain activity. Okay. The right brain, in musical activities, the right brain takes over. In language activities, it's the left brain. So when you're singing, you're accessing a different part of your brain, and also the articulators like your tongue and your mouth, your palate, all of that reacted differently when you sing, when you speak. Speaking is different, activates the different articulators in a different way. So I did a little research on that before I started writing about a stuttering child. And of course, in the book, this book, it doesn't mention her having a speech therapist, but she will eventually work with a speech therapist in the later book.
Yes. Yes. What about this age range do you enjoy in terms of writing for younger readers?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I don't know. I think that they're at this age that I'm writing for, very impressionable. And as a former educator, and I still consider myself an educator when I'm writing these books, I'm really interested in teaching children about diversity, about disability, how to interact with one another, how to be sensitive, how to be empathetic. So I think this is a really good age to address those issues because they're already in school. They're exposed to, when they're in school, they're exposed to different types of children, different problems. You know, a lot of children are bullied in school. And so I include bullying in my books. So how do you work with that as a child and you come across that type of behavior? How do you not feel like you are worthless because you're being teased by other people? How do you find your own sense of self-worth? And that comes from parenting as well, but it also has to come from inside yourself.
Yeah.
I think that at that age group, and you're the mother of a child that's 10, and Chloe is 9. So I think that's a really good age to start teaching children about those kind of things. They've already encountered it in school, and those who are entering school are going to encounter it.
Right. Yep, absolutely.
In kindergarten they start to as well.
Oh, yeah. Probably even preschool, I would imagine. Yeah. So this is listed as book 1 of Boomer's Tales. So we were curious.
How many books do you want to write for the series?
Well, I have already. The second one is coming out in November, and it's a mystery. It has the same cast of characters. It's called A Hard Nut to Crack. And that one comes out in I think the launch date is going to be November the 9th. But I have 3 others after that I've written the rough drafts for. So the third one is called Camp Resound, and that's going to deal with a music camp. And the fourth one is called Long Lost Elvis, and that deals, I have a main character in there that's another animal, and that one is a donkey.
Oh, fun!
And the fifth one is called Bongo Learns His Lesson, and it includes, all of them will have some kind of music in them, more or less music, or less. There's some that have more and some that have less. But Bongo is an African gray parrot, and he has a habit of squawking not nice words.
Oh, sure.
He wants to learn how not to do that, and he has some musical experiences himself. So, and I'm not sure about the sixth one yet. I've been so busy getting these others ready to go to the publisher and the illustrations on all of that I haven't written the sixth one yet. But there are 5 for sure.
All right. And can you talk a little bit about the illustrator and how you work together?
Well, the illustrator is here in Murfreesboro, where I live. And I actually met him through his father, who is now deceased. His father and I were colleagues on the School of Music faculty. His father was a pianist, and his mother is a cellist, and she taught there. She was an adjunct for a while there, too. But I had asked Taylor Bills, is my illustrator. When I was the opera director at MTSU, I knew about his talent from his parents, and he designed a few sets for me for the opera program. And I had sort of followed him along, and I knew that he was great at illustrating. So when I came up with the idea of these books, I thought he's the number one person I wanted to ask. And luckily, he has been willing to work with me on so far on the set, we've only, the illustrations have been completed for the second book, but I hope he's going to follow through all of the series.
Yeah, that would be wonderful. That would be wonderful. All right, Risa has another question.
Why did you want to become a writer?
Oh, that's also another interesting question. you would think that I had had a singing career. Where did writing come from? Well, even as a child, I made up stories. I can remember in the 5th grade, I made up a story about the missing white station wagon. It was a little mystery. And I do write poems. I mean, before I retired, I was already writing poems, and I started writing these books before I retired. I didn't have a lot of time to write during the academic year, but in the summertime when I was not teaching full time, I started writing these stories. So the kernel of writing has always been there, but the thrust of making it more of a thrust of more energy into writing has happened more since retirement. Mm-hmm. And that's been a year. I was retired for a year. I have been retired from my university position for a year. But I think
what an odd year to be retired.
Exactly. In fact, I was still teaching when the university was closed down for the pandemic. So I had to finish out the semester teaching on Zoom, which I had never done before. So I had to be a quick learner, and so did the students. We had to be quick learners too. But actually, it's been a good year for writing, because you're not pulled into all of these outside activities that, one is usually pulled into. Right. Regardless of whether you're retired or not, I'm already getting more busy with things outside of my writing because things have revved up again. You're able to meet again. I was going to also say another thing about writing. When you think about writing, it's a voice too. And so for years I sang, and that was expression of my voice, my singing voice. But writing is also the expression of a voice. So I feel like it's very compatible with my singing career and teaching career.
You said you wrote a story in 5th grade about a white station wagon, a missing white station wagon. Well, Risa just finished 4th grade, so she'll be going into 5th grade in the fall. And
I love writing mysteries.
She writes mysteries also.
Yay, Risa!
In fact, when I got here, she gave me a gift of a couple of her stories that she's written. So it's very exciting, and I love that she loves to read and write. And now I've embarrassed her, and she's making an embarrassed face.
Well, Risa, I think that's wonderful. What are the name of your stories that you wrote?
Abigail Smith, but The Mystery at the Cemetery.
What is it, Sam and Sadie?
Yeah, Sam and Sadie, book 1. Allie Simpson and the author's autobiography. Then there's the second Abigail Smith, which I don't remember the name of, but it was about her friend being kidnapped.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah, I didn't realize she was quite this prolific.
You are. Well, are you familiar with Goosebumps?
The series Goosebumps, R.L. Stein. You never read those? They're kind of scary.
Actually, I'm reading Piano Lessons Can Be Murder right now.
Oh no, not piano lessons.
But I think it's important when you are a children's book writer that you read children's books too.
I agree.
So I had never read a Charlotte's Web, and so I bought that. Have you read that?
I've read it.
I have it in my cupboard.
Yep.
Yeah. So I'm getting started on that because I never that came out after I was already an adult. But I thought, well, now that I'm reading children's books, guess what? I'm going to go back. I'm writing children's books. I'm going to go back and read some of these, like Maggie and the Magic Tree House. I've read several of those. I've read the Poppy series. Really well-written children's books, I think. So I just love that Risa is already writing her own stories.
I do too. It's wonderful.
That's great.
I'm going to jump in here so we can take our second break of the podcast, but I know I'm a little biased, but I'm hoping that someday I'll be interviewing Risa for this book review podcast once she puts, more stories together and gets some of those published. I think that would be awesome if, that's what she decides she wants to do when she grows up. Right now, she's got about 52 different options on what she wants to do, depending on what day you talk to her. So let's take that break. When we come back, we'll be hearing from Christine about her advice for aspiring authors. Stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Book Review Podcast, and I'll be right back.
Tired of searching the vast jungle of podcasts? Now listen close and hear this out. There's a podcast network that covers just about everything that you've been searching. The Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network is here. Nothing less than a podcast bliss with endless hours of podcast coverage. From news, sports, music, fashion, cooking, entertainment, fantasy, football, and so much more. So stop lurking around and go straight out to the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. Guaranteed to fill that podcast itch. Whatever it may be. Visit us at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and download us on iTunes, SoundCloud, and Google Play.
Welcome back to the GSMC Book Review Podcast and my interview with Christine Isley-Farmer. We are talking about her new children's book, Finding My Yip.
Yeah. Well, Christine, do you have advice for aspiring authors? Aspiring authors are people who want to write.
Well, the way I started, because, I had written academic articles. That's different from creative writing, and you're wanting to get published or think of it more seriously. I started here in Murfreesboro. We have a library called the Linebaugh Library, and there was a writers group, and I started going and participating in that. We had weekly meetings, and you would bring, say 5 pages of whatever you had written, and share it with the group, and you would get some comments, criticism, but it was a good way to sort of get your work out there. So I started off with that when I started writing Finding My Yip. But I also, for aspiring writers, I think it's interesting and important that you go to writers' conferences. I know that I have gone to those. And the important part of that is that you get to read, you get to talk to people who are doing it professionally. You get inside tips about writing, and sometimes you're able to, depending on the conference, you're able to, if you're writing something, you have a chance to plug it with or promote it with a literary agent. You might find an agent who wants to represent you, who would, represent you to publishers who are interested in your particular kind of genre of books. But I think in participating in writers' conferences, especially if you're a beginning writer, you get to learn, I didn't know that was expected, or these are the kinds of things I need to be doing. And then to have find a local writing group that you can share your work with and get some feedback and get tips. And I think that's also important. So those are tips I would give for aspiring writers. And the other thing is write.
Yeah.
I have to say that because it's very difficult, and I have found that difficult too, because you can get a lot of aspiring writers are working day jobs, they're doing other things, they don't write full time. But finding a time and a place, especially a place where it's quiet, you can concentrate, you are not distracted. And, I remember getting up and writing early in the morning, but whatever time frame, some people would write better maybe after they are off work and they've had dinner and they want to just have some time to themselves. They'll write in the evening. But find what's best for you, because the secret of writing, in a way, is you write, then you rewrite, then you rewrite, then you rewrite.
Right.
Because writers are just mostly not ever satisfied with their books. I know that's been the way with me. It's like, oh, I've got to turn this loose. Am I ready to turn it loose? So when you get to the point that you are ready, thinking, oh, I want to try to get my work published, if you get with a publisher, you will have an editor who will edit your books. But for me, I decided I wanted to go the self-publishing route, but I hired someone to proof my writing. When I got my books to the point, I said, oh, I'm sort of ready to let go to get them edited. Then I sent them to someone I thought I trusted to edit them for me. So I think that's important in the stages. But when you're a beginning writer, it's just write. It's a group that enjoys sharing their work, and you can share yours and get some feedback.
Okay. Thank you for that. I think you've answered this a little bit, but Risa has one more question for you.
What have you been reading?
Oh, I don't know if she heard you. Say it again.
What have you been reading?
Oh, what have I been reading? Well, I told you I was starting on the Goosebumps, and we have a indie bookshop here where I live called The Crying Cat. And I went in there and I just went through, they have a children's library, so I rifled through that and bobbed through several books. But because I'm an adult, I'm also reading some nonfiction. I read 2 books recently. One is Cast by Isabel Wilkerson, and the other one is The Warmth of Other Suns by the same author. And I don't know if, Sarah, if you are acquainted with these books or not. But
I've heard of the second one, but I haven't read it.
Oh, The Warmth of you've heard of the second one, but you haven't read it?
Yeah.
Okay, so The Warmth of Other Suns deals with the Great Migration, and the Great Migration is the impetus of the blacks who had been quote emancipated after the Civil War and had seen that really the emancipation was not what it was all touted to be. And of course there were a lot of Jim Crow laws in the South, and the blacks were not treated well. They were mistreated. And this is about their migration to the North and to the West. They also, and she deals with 3 characters and their families. One character is from Florida, and they migrate to New York City. Another character is from, I believe, Mississippi, and he's actually a physician, and he moves to California. And the other one is a woman, and she moves to the Chicago area, the north, what I call the Northwest, sort of middle Northwest. And she follows stories of she follows their stories, and they're actually so fascinating. And you learn a lot about racism, and you learn about that racism doesn't disappear because you move.
Right. Unfortunately, no.
It doesn't. And especially with the doctor who became a famous doctor in L.A., he encountered, I remember what he said, and he wrote in his book, he said, as soon as he crossed the line, crossed the Texas line, thinking he was leaving the South, and he drove into New Mexico and Arizona, he could not get a motel room. Everywhere he stopped, people said, we're full. It wasn't until he got into California that he could actually find a place to stay. And still, racism was a part of the West as well. So it's when you read this, you wonder, if you haven't walked in the feet, if you're a different race, if you're white, you've never walked in the feet, and I'm white. You've never walked in the feet of these people. You've not walked into their past. nor into their present, nor into their future. So I just found that book. I enjoyed Caste because she talks about racism in America, but she talks about Nazism, and she also discusses the Dalits in India, who were in some ways treated as poorly or more poorly than our African Americans or blacks.
Yes.
But those two books have really been interesting to me. And now I've started Stamped. I don't know if you've heard about that.
Not sure. Who's the author?
Okay. Again, it starts with, in the 1400s, the beginning of racism, the cultural theory about that all in the United States, why it happened, how it's been just, furthered. It's continues. It's the way we think. We think the way we've been taught to think, the way we've been educated. So I'm just starting that one, but I'm very interested in this. I guess with the George Floyd trial, it really brought things to a head for me as far as what's going on in our country. I mean, I'm brought up in the South. A lot of things that I grew up with were things that I just, I assumed they were the way they were because that's the way they were supposed to be. As an adult, as an older adult, I see that was all wrong.
Yeah.
And that's not the way we should live any longer.
Yeah. Well, I see it from a slightly different perspective in that, I'm also white and I grew up in Montana, which is not hugely diverse, at least my hometown wasn't, but then my husband now is Black, and so I've seen his experience, seen through his eyes and the experiences that he's had, and, getting the amount of times he gets pulled over, just a lot of different things that I'd heard about, but now I'm seeing firsthand.
You're seeing it, yes. You're living it. Your husband lives it, and you and your daughter are living it.
Yeah.
So, and it has to change, doesn't it?
Yes. Yes, it does.
It just has to change. I mean, when you look at the diversity in our country, I mean, we have Hispanics, we have Asians, we have Blacks. We have a gift here. We have a gift here. We have a diversity that a lot of the world doesn't even have or know about.
I agree.
So we need to embrace that and stop fighting it and stop the hate is what I say. Stop the hate.
I agree.
I definitely agree. We're going to go ahead, though, and take our final break of the podcast. Something interesting is that Christine referred to Risa as my daughter mistakenly, and Risa is my niece. I've been saying that throughout. But it's interesting because Christine said something about things that my husband and I face as an interracial couple, and she included Risa as our daughter in that, and Risa does actually happen to be mixed race. She is African American and Caucasian. She just doesn't happen to be our daughter. she's my sister's younger daughter. Both of my sister's children are adopted. My 15-year-old niece is Chinese, and my 10-year-old niece is mixed race, and it's wonderful, and I love having that diversity in our family. And when my husband and I go anywhere with Risa, people think that she's ours, and we are, of course, perfectly okay with that, because she is ours. She's just not our daughter. But she's still our baby niece. So anyway, let's take our final break of the podcast. And when we come back, the conclusion of this interview with Christine Isley-Farmer. So stay tuned. You're listening to the GSMC Book Review Podcast, and I will be right back.
Golden State Media Concepts Social Media Podcast. Time to hashtag everything. We talk about all the fun, crazy stories on social media. From Instagram to Facebook, Twitter to Tumblr, or probably even Friendster. Join us each week as we explore the quirky side of social media. It's the Golden State Media Concepts Social Media Podcast.
It's simple, such a sad song. The one that we rely on to get us.
Welcome back to the GSMC Book Review Podcast and the conclusion of my interview with Christine Isley-Farmer. Remember that before the break we were talking about race and issues that have been facing this country in the past, well, way too many years, of course, but definitely been more in the forefront lately. But we're going to change the subject slightly as we go into the conclusion of this interview.
Well, on a slightly different note, that was all very, very important. But I know you have a website, so if you can share your website as well as where people can find you on social media.
Yes, I can. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn.
Okay.
So they can find me on all of them.
Okay.
And on my Facebook, I have an author page and a personal page. So I have two different pages. So if people are interested from the writing standpoint, they can friend me on my author page.
Okay.
I do have a website, and it's www.goodreads.Christine, CHRISTINE.com. And if you go on that, you can look at, well, I just think it's a really nice website. But you can read more about me, and also you can read reviews that have come out about the book. If you're thinking about buying it for a child, your child or children, you can read what other people have had to say about it. You can also order the book from my website because it has buttons for Barnes & Noble and Amazon, and, of course, has Bookshop on there, too. So I wanted to include the indie bookstores as well. But, yeah, that's where you can find me. And if you want to sign up for, I haven't really started it yet because I've been so busy with promoting the first book, but I do have, you can sign up for a newsletter or give me your email, and I'll contact you if I have something special I want to offer you, or to keep you in touch with what's going on.
All right. Thank you. Well, Christine, we've talked about a lot of different things today, but is there anything that we haven't touched on that you were hoping to be able to talk about during our time together?
I think that you ask about every question that you sent me ahead of time.
Yes.
I think we covered it all.
Yes. All right. Well, I want to thank you so much for taking the time out of your weekend to talk to me and to talk to Risa, who has disappeared to go do other things now. But thank you so much for letting her join us.
Well, I loved it. It was wonderful to have a young reader in on the conversation.
Yes.
And I enjoyed talking to you as well.
And she's excited about the next one.
Oh, good. Well, if she likes mystery, she'll like this one. The second one, too.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
So thank you once again to Christine for joining me, and especially for being so kind and letting Risa be part of the interview. She did not have to do that. I asked ahead of time if she would mind, and she said absolutely. So thank you, Christine, for that, for your wonderful conversation, the wonderful conversation that we had, and I really enjoyed not only the conversation but also the book, Finding My Yip. I am looking forward to reading more about Boomers and Chloe's adventures as the series continues, seeing where that takes them and learning more about Nana's magic, because we know she has it. We don't know much about it beyond the fact that she has it, and Reese and I both have questions. We were actually very glad when Christine explained it a little more in the book, because it's alluded to in the first parts of the book, and then more is explained, and Risa and I kept saying, what is this ring? What is going on? So again, we both thoroughly enjoyed it, and if you have children in the age range 7 to 12 or even older, I mean, really, you know, your children or grandchildren or nieces, nephews, cousins, whatever. You know their reading preferences probably. So if you have someone in that age range or someone that you think would enjoy this book, you should definitely check it out. And again, Finding My Yip, and the author is Christine Isley-Farmer. I know I've said that a million times, but want to get that stuck in everybody's brains. I hope that you will join me for the next interview. I will be interviewing Mia P. Manansala, and I hope I said that right. I probably didn't. I will double check. About her book. It is a cozy mystery. It is called Arsenic and Adobo, geez. Arsenic and Adobo. It might be time for me to shut things down. I can't remember my words today. Arsenic and Adobo. Let me say that again. It is a cozy mystery. Please join me for that interview. The book is a lot of fun, and my conversation with Mia was also a lot of fun. Hope you're having a great day. Hope that you're surviving the heat wherever you are. It is unseasonably warm here in Montana. I brought the California weather with me. No one is happy. I have to apologize to the entire state of Montana for the heat. But I hope wherever you are, you either have a break from the heat or some really good AC. So thank you for joining me. If you're a fan of this podcast, please do leave us a review. That can be written. That can be a starred review. Also, please follow the podcast on social media. Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. I love to hear from readers and listeners. Let me know what you're reading. Let me know if you have authors that you'd like to see on the podcast. I can't guarantee that I will get them on here, but I'd love to hear your thoughts. And as I was saying, wherever you are and whatever the temperature, I hope that your day is affording you plenty of time to get yourself lost in a good book. Thanks.
You've been listening to the Golden State Media Concepts Book Review Podcast, part of the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network. You can find this show and others like it at www.gsmcpodcast.com. Download our podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and Google Play. Just type in GSMC to find all the shows from the Golden State Media Concepts Podcast Network, from movies to music, from sports to entertainment, and even weird news. You can also follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. Thank you, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program.